So Donald Trump got to give his State of the Union address this afternoon, our time. It was very Trumpian. Have a look.
Members of Congress and my fellow Americans, our nation is back, bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before.
Yeah, well, he has got a case. America's doing all right. Let me bring in Tom Switzer, columnist for The Australian. He has got a case, hasn't he? Look, there was so much triumphalism in this speech, and also stark divide over policy, such as immigration, between the Republicans and the Democrats. He was teasing that out. Is this a president who's actually going to be a plus for the Republicans come the midterms?
At this stage, probably not. And that's mainly because history would indicate that the president's party usually goes backwards at the first midterm elections. The other point to bear in mind is, although the president cites this great turnaround for the ages, it's not reflected in the opinion polls. Gallup shows his approval rating at only 36%.
Is that right?
Yeah,
wow.
And the last quarter growth figures showed annual 1% growth. Now, that admittedly came from a 4% annual growth in the third quarter, but it indicates that the US economy is slowing down. A lot of Americans are feeling the pain of a sluggish economy. Yeah,
the economy is going to be key, but they're campaigning. It's an unusual situation, isn't it, in that it's his second term, but there was a gap between the first and the second.
That's right.
And so he's disappearing no matter what at the end of this term, but he seems to think he's going to be an asset going into the midterms, and it may not be the case. Let me go to international affairs, which he really didn't share a lot of detail on today, but here's what he had to say about Iran.
Some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference...
Yeah, well, there's no news there. That's what he's always said about Iran, and the whole world's waiting to hear what America's next step will be. There was just not a clue.
My sense, Chris, is that he knows he's boxed in now. He's committed the largest arsenal of air and military assets to the Persian Gulf since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, and this was designed to put pressure on the mullahs to cave into his demands about no uranium enrichment, no ballistic missile capability, and no support for the Shia militia proxies around the region. The mullahs aren't budging. They're not giving anything in. So the onus is now on the president. The ball's in his court, as the Iranians say. What's he going to do?
Especially with some...
What he's going to do.
But he's got major military assets deployed to the region. Well, he can't just turn around and ship them out.
He's boxed in a way because he's also hearing from his Israeli allies that clearly have an interest in escalating things, even regime change in Tehran. I mean, let's face it, it's a brutal regime that's committed awful human rights abuses. Trump mentioned the figure of something like 32,000 Iranian protesters. Who really knows the number? But it's a brutal regime. But he's also hearing from his Sunni allies, the Saudis, the UAE, Turkey, the Gulf states, that don't want another Iraq. They don't want another Syria. So he's boxed in a pretty tough position here.
Reading the body language, when you look at the drawn-out face of Marco Rubio in the crowd and seeing what Donald Trump had to say about this, you get the impression they don't know what they're going to do next.
Look, the reality is Iran is on the back foot. It's been humiliated since October 7. But it still possesses something like 2,000 medium-range ballistic missiles. They can cause a lot of havoc in retaliation if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's a huge
problem.
Bear that
in mind. I mean, they could strike Israel, but they could also
or the
strike
UAE,
US military assets or the UAE.
Yeah.